There it is.
Yo, oh snap! Instagram allowed this to happen,
right?
Watch out! Watch out!
Meta, Zuckerberg is allowing this to happen. What's going on?
Well, ready or not, here we come. Here we come.
Here we go. I was just over here. First of all, it's good to see both of y'all. And secondly, it was just hearing that last bit that you were saying. Other beloved community fam, in your presence.
Yeah, everybody sends their love. Missing you all.
Send your love back.
Starting to get back together.
Yeah. I see folks coming in. Yo, what's up? I see Tracy. What's good, Tracy?
All right.
I see some names. I see. Wow, so Rayblen. I just want to shout out Rayblen, New York. That's New York family.
The cookout has officially begun. So wherever you are on a Sunday, doing the dishes, folding the laundry, out in the park, doing your thing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our monthly Beloved Community Radio, and just really blessed and honored to be with both of you, brothers in Beloved Community. Terry and Calvin have been causing trouble and making mischief for a long time. They got stories to tell and receipts to bring, but most recently in the context of this wonderful thing called Wakanda Dream Lab, which is a place that both of them have collaborated really powerfully in the last few years with some other family, and Terry is a part of the Intelligent Mischief Dynamic Duo, which we'll hear some about, and Calvin's been keying it with Common and trying to just decarcerate this system of madness that we've got, and see if we can make justice real. So y'all been up to some stuff, but yeah, I think what do you feel like you have learned, each of you, in the last few years of this pandemic madness about the realness of community? Like, what does it really take to make community real? And where are you feeling like some rays of hope, some clarity is emerging for each of you on what that work is looking like for you right now?
Love that question. I'll jump in because I can hear someone who made my beloved community a little bit wider, deeper, larger. I became a parent along with Lila. What's up, Lila? I see you in there downstairs. I'm in the upstairs studio. But we became parents during the pandemic. Well, right before, it was like November 2019, and we did this little thing where we had paternity, maternity leaves, and then we're like, all right, we're going to be out in the world. We're going to go to the zoo. We're going to take it to the park. And right when we were planning to do all those three things at 3 months, pandemic, hit in ways that we've been adapting ever since. And I think that that sped up, that had to grow me up as a parent. Thinking of ways to protect and indulge and engage and cultivate and participate in Malik's joy, right? And so be it making up silly songs or praying new prayers or drawing with chalk in ways I haven't done in about 30 years. It was just these gentle but significant reminders of what community can look like when we are placed in a position to reimagine in a container of like joy, right? So I've been leaning a lot to have the curiosities of my grandmothers in particular, like what was it like for them, and great migrations and occupations and places where they were also entrusted to hold a space of joy. And so that's been my curiosity quest during the last couple of years of what beloved community looks like. And Malik helped remix that question for me in a very real way.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep. I mean, my kids are 14 and 17, getting ready for college and high school right now. So a little later in
Oh
the
my
journey,
God.
but I know just like nothing has transformed my understanding of everything more than the privilege of getting to be a parent and what I learn in relationship to my kids. And as they grow, I grow, and where I don't grow, they let me know that I need to grow. Hey, you need to do some growing there, pops. Get your act together here. Um, but I'm reminded of the piece y'all worked on in Wakanda Dream Lab around kind of, like reimagining gender, like this notion of like what would look like, what would our lives look like if our indigeneity had not been interrupted? Like, how would we have evolved outside of that? And as you sort of talk about your experience as a parent and how your experience of family is transforming your relationship to how you think about community, it makes me curious about like what are some of the things that the imaginings, the Afrofuturist visionings that may have emerged in that project that you might find some space to live into now in the realness of it. Because I think with both of you, I'm really curious about how you work that dialectic of like radical reimagining, and then what happens when it's 3 a.m. and your kid's crying and you don't know what to do. Like, how does it get like real? How does it get real? How does it get real? So you're in the realness of it, Calvin. Just a little more on that. How are you bringing it all
Oh
together?
yeah. Oh, that's real. Um, and the permission to practice and remember and to lean in, even when you feel like the way you're leaning in is by tripping forward and messing up. That's been, the humbling kind of growth spot for me, and what beloved community means as a practice, as an invitation, where no matter how you show up, you're a part of it, right? Like if you're tripping up, messing up, it has an impact on the rest of the community, right? And what does it mean to be asked to show up when you are not at your best? Like Calvin, rested, fed, well, slept, well read, around folks that can hold me down and hold me accountable. Like that's easy Calvin to chill with, right? At 3 a.m, when I just fell asleep at 2 a.m. because I was catching up on things that needed to be done at 2 p.m, right? That's where it feels really real. So I've had to contend with certain things about myself that still in dialogue and about contradictions and what does it mean to be a man in a relationship, parenting and showing up as a partner and seeing the thorns that are still there. I'm like, oh wow, Calvin, that sounded really 1982 right there, right? To give away my birth year. But it's not 1982. It's patriarchy. It's internalization of what I thought inadequacies were within myself. It's not a year. It's a value system that I'm still contending with and growing from. So in those moments, I turn to a lot of prayer and a lot of songs, right? Which is what I was saying about earlier. Like one of the most beautiful things, moments that I had early on with Malik was remembering for the first time in years a song that my mother would sing to me in Tagalog. She's Papangan, from the nation island known as the Philippines, and I remembered like, oh, there's this song that always got me and the other kids to laugh no matter what, right? And so tapping into that kind of energy of like, I know my mama was tired. What were the things that she did when she was trying to get us back to sleep, and how can I lead that energy? And so being able to learn and grow in that way, and also share a song where Malik is hearing that, and to this day, if I do that little diddle, right, do that, I'll get a giggle out of him. I'm gonna see how long I can ride that out before I gotta remix it a bit more. But you know, in some ways it's at the heart of, you mentioned Afrofuturism and decided to really dive in on that. But that the principle of Sankofa, right? The looking back to move forward, you know, or going back to fetch what might have been forgotten in your journey as you move forward, right? So that's been such a critical practice and beloved community that I've been learning through Malik.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. As you were talking, for some reason, I don't know why this came into my head. I have this image of you, Terry, like in this, like dressed up in this hazmat suit, doing one of the pieces that you did, where you're kind of making clear, like if we were actually equipped to have to navigate all the stuff that gets thrown at us, like what would that sort of armor look like? And I feel like that piece that you did and some of the other pieces that you've done in the last few years, I feel like are another really powerful way for us to kind of make visible the things that we experience that are visible to us because we're being impacted. But for those who are doing the impact or who are oblivious to it, like it's like the evidence of things not seen. And I feel like in so much of your work, you kind of like by making those things concrete and visible, then we can work with them. We can make sure that those things get acknowledged. And so just curious, like what if you have any reflections on that piece, if you want to talk a little bit about it, because it's one I always think of when I think of you, because it's had such an impact on me. And just like what openings that you're seeing right now in the work that you all are doing. But yeah, tell people a little bit about that suit.
Yeah, reminds me we should like start re-promote ourselves. We should start re-promoting that video. so that would, Taj is talking about is a project that at Intelligent Mischief we started on. It's actually like the origins of it is actually like the very second project Intelligent Mischief did. It was a Black Body Survival Guide. Multimedia project. It was our response to Trayvon Martin being murdered, and sort of like the collective like disbelief, but also there was a sort of like depending who you talk to, right? There's a sort of disbelief of when the verdict came down that Zimmerman didn't get charged, and then there's also a very much cynical but also truthful, like of course. Right. But the thing that was different, people felt different about Trayvon was like, okay, I think a lot of other, in this like post-segregation age of like state terror against Black people, right? A lot of cases were always, it's easy because of the narrative and the conditions of Black folks is easy to criminalize us. And so I think there was this sort of general belief that if we could get the perfect victim, quote unquote. And I think Trayvon almost fit that. And it was like, it was evidence that like, irregardless, right? You got the perfect victim and you still get the same result. And I think that was a narrative that might have been floating in people's head, whether they knew that or not. And that felt like a sort of like, wow, I can't, the bottom's pulled out from underneath us. And so Black Body Survival Guide was a narrative project that really wanted to tackle those things, right? Like those things can't be tackled with like a campaign, a regular like kind of organizing campaign. It's like, how do you deal with things that are narrative and cultural? And so we just came up with, it was totally a way of using Afro-surrealism along with Afrofuturism to tackle these things, right? That are unseen but felt. And so the hazmat video, all that to say, the hazmat video was we came up with these lists of ridiculous tips, like how can you be surreal? You have to be surreal in a racist society. That's absurd, right? So we was like, we made a T-shirt called, when times get absurd, it's time to get surreal. It was like that was the only response you could have. So the hazmat suit is like we Black people need to wear because of like climate change and these attacks and toxicity. Black people need to wear hazmats at all time. Black people need to have all these like ridiculous things that we thought of our imagination, because like that is the only way you could combat this thing that's coming at you. But you're constantly, as you're being attacked, you're being told at the same time it's not happening, and no one is listening to you. People who are not Black are not listening to you, so you're being attacked and you're being made to feel crazy. So it was a way to take back the crazy, right? Like, okay, we're gonna take the crazy and show you who really is crazy, you know. And so, jujitsu, essentially.
Ooh, and sadly, that piece is still so relevant in this moment. You know, it's so clear the ways in which like some things have changed and nothing has changed. The things that we've been struggling against in this pendulum of awakening and white lash, and to the point at which folks are like, hey, actually, you know, facts, don't think we really need those. Science, we can kind of do without that too. And oh, by the way, while we're at it, let's just get rid of history, because the truth of the past is causing me so much discomfort. Let us just proceed as if the past never happened. Why not? Why not? So talk about absurdity and surrealism. You know, right. I think you got you one there, because it's just like, whoa, okay. So really, just we just put history in the trash can here, because that's kind of where we are, and then there's the rest of us who live in reality because we have no other choice. We're like, well, that's you know, that's cute. That's cute that, you know, you can pretend like the sun's not shining, you can pretend like water's not wet, but that doesn't do much, because, you know, I can feel it on my face. I can feel it flowing through my veins. So the truth is the truth and cannot be denied, even if you attempt to do so. So these are truly surreal times. What's next for Wakanda Dream Lab? What you know, you all have done such an amazing series of projects and collaboration there, and you got anything cooking up next? What's in the hopper?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about that. And thank you, Aisha. I see you in the chats. Dropping some of the links there about previous projects that collectively and independently we've done. So collectively with Wakanda Dream Lab, it released several anthologies, and just got to give you know, props and shout outs to some folks that helped inspire us, right? Like Octavia's Brood, right? Thinking of how visionary fiction can be an invitation for us to contend. And Terry, I can't wait for you to dive in on this about that contention of dream worlds, because yes, we are living reality, but that reality is shaped by this cacophony of dreams and narratives that are there, that feels like, okay, I'm living somebody's dream with power turned into reality that I'm told I have to contend with, while they get to, you know, still be as playful with it as saying, oh yeah, that didn't happen, even though, you know, literally there's still schools that have segregated reunions. You know what I mean? Some of these same schools that are trying to say we can't teach why those school reunions are segregated. Hello? And so with that, and being able to kind of like remix the with our power, like this past into a visionary future, we have these anthologies. Some of them were also inspired. Another shout out to the world of Wakanda and all of the immersive, juicy magic that was gifted to us through not just Black Panther, the movie, but the comic books. Terry and I could probably nerd out all day on all things comics and other things, but that just felt like such an opening, right? A cultural moment, a cultural intervention that was giving people the permission to dream of places that were never colonized, that were you know, contending with what joy and justice looks like and feels like, and how it's powered on their own terms. Didn't mean struggles didn't exist. It just meant that the battlefield for those ideas were on a different, just in a different plane. And so that's what you see in our stories. We have, you mentioned the Black Freedom Beyond Borders, reimagining gender in Wakanda. Our first one was around immigration stories and migration journeys, and what it would mean for a diasporic people to be invited to a place called home that they never knew existed. what will be the stories that emerge from there. And then most recently worked on in collaboration with PolicyLink, Memories of Abolition Day, which was contending with what, again, joy, justice, accountability looks like without prisons and police, and having to imagine what that kind of justice looks like and how we got there. But most importantly, how does it feel? How are we vibing together? What are the songs that we're singing, prayers we're praying, the games that we're playing, the technology, right? How does that all get shaped by a post-abolitionist future? And what we got cooking up now is actually a few fun projects, including, I'll name a few. First with taking these stories and immersing. We got printed copies, which I just so happen to have one next to me. You get digital ones that Aisha dropped in. We're taking it to a storycast and podcast. Yay, yeah. We're taking it to storycast and a podcast. So we're going to do some immersive storytelling around that. Each story also has artwork that's activated with augmented reality, using augmented reality platforms to create immersive installations. Actually, if you're in Oakland or in the Bay Area over the next couple of weeks, now through the end of the month, we have an installation at Oakland Museum for their Afrofuturism exhibit called Mothership. And there's a couple of images and portraits and augmented reality activations that are part of that installation. And then lastly, or actually second to last, we got conversations about what climate futurism could look like from the perspectives of young Afrofuturists. So that's something we've been talking about that for at least, I want to say, actually since the pandemic started. We're really excited about inviting young people to tell stories of the future, and got a couple of potential teaser trailers with a 7-word story workshop that Wakanda Dream Lab just wrapped up with California 100 that I can drop in the chat. But that leads me to 7-word stories, tag teaming with Intelligent Mischief for a project we have with Carnegie Hall. And I want to let Terry talk a bit about that.
Yeah. I was like, man, it's so funny. The Carnegie Hall thing, it's so big. I'm just thinking in my head, 'cause I was just talking to somebody about it. And it was like, I was like, do y'all know Carnegie Hall is doing this?
Right.
So I always got to give a pretense. So I'll say Carnegie Hall, famous Carnegie Hall is doing a Afrofuturism conference, or festival, that's lasting over 2 months. Calvin, what Connor Dream Lab, Intelligent Mischief, we've hooked up to, been asked to curate, an event, the final event of the event, of the festival on March 25th. So me and Aisha out here in New York, we've been holding it down really. It's going to be about 3 or 4 rooms, immersive Afrofuturism rooms, where we have DJ MoMA, DJ Reborn are spinning, Calvin's Wakanda Dream Lab, and some other folks, Ashley J. Lewis, and some other folks are doing augmented reality and Afrofuturism world building workshops with some young people in February. Forgetting the exact dates on those, but their world building is like the young people create artifacts and art that's going to go to building the world, the immersive world that we're putting together on March 25th for Carnegie Hall. So yeah, this event's happening all over. This is like it feels so great, not only just collabing on it, but just like doing something on this scale. Because like we've done a lot of stuff, but like institutions and names still matter. So when people see like, oh, y'all doing Carnegie Hall, that was like, okay, now you could look at the other stuff we've been doing for years, But shout out to Carnegie Hall too for giving us a chance to actually showcase the talents and skills and the different people who get an opportunity to, and the young people themselves to help create this world. And the world is called Afro-Cosmic Melotopia.
Say it again.
World. Afro-Cosmic Melotopia. And you can break it down. The young people broke it down. They was like, the story I was told was like, they were like, we gotta have Afro in there, Afro strong, cosmic, because that's where we're going. That's where we're going with this. There was some young people in the group who were not of African descent, but they were like, but everyone got melanin, so we gotta put Melotopia in there because we include these folks, and then like utopia. So they was like, we gotta create new worlds. That's the question was posed to them was this new world you want to see, and they was like, we gotta create new words for worlds we haven't been to yet. You know, and we was like, they told us that we was like, we have to take this project on.
Yeah, that made it such an irresistible yes, because we always operate on how can we move people from feeling like something's inevitable to actually something being irresistible, getting to that irresistible yes. Well, we heard that that's how the young folks came together, new words to describe new worlds. I was like, what? Like, it had me thrown in the best possible ways.
So much. I mean, what I appreciate about both of you, because you all have been collaborating since you were both, you know, relatively young people, and you're both bringing, you know, in all of your collaborations, like you're both bringing so much new and fresh, but just as both of you described, you're really creating spaces for co-creation as artists yourselves. You're creating space for other artists to come together and collaborate and kind of build the new futures collaboratively. So I'm just curious how you all think about, you know, like being in a moment in which these futures that we're constructing are sort of fundamentally co-constructions, and how do you think about your practice? Like when we think about beloved communities, a practice, one of the practices is the practice of co-creation, of co-construction, of like collective imagination, collective acceleration. Like we can't, sort of none of us can do this in isolation on our own. We don't just go into a little room by ourselves and all of a sudden it just bursts forth, right? Like so fundamental to what you all do is just that ways of like in the cipher, just like we're doing it together. So what do y'all feel like you've learned in the last few years about kind of that fine art of co-creation, of collaboration, of like bringing young people in, of like of the collab? Like what do you learn about the collab that we all need to know?
I'll say something real quick. Man, I mean, it just brings to mind so many things. Like, I'll just say what's come to my head. Like, for, you know, at Intelligent Mischief, we are running, actually today, just now, and actually later on after this, we have a fellowship, a Black Imagination Content Fellowship, where we have like 5 people, mostly New York area based, who are coming in and like developing, sharing their arts and talents to just develop content that's how do we further expand the Black imagination for liberation. And we're just like, you know, the stuff I'm working with some of these folks, some folks in our fellowship I've known for a while, other people are totally new to me. And like the stuff where I'm learning from them and they're telling us like they're learning from us, you know, and I'm thinking, is it funny you said like relatively young? I'm like, oh, we're still not young. I be forgetting, man. still trying to run out here. Right? And like, what is that? Right? And one of the folks working with me it was just a moment where that person turned to me and was like, yo, I'm just trying to learn from you. And I was thinking like, what are you talking about? I'm just providing space. So you trying to learn from me. And then I was like,
Yelder. He'd be like, you're Yelder up in here. You can't be perpetrating the youth. You can't be perpetrating
Exactly. I'm like, what you talking about, man? I'm still on the court.
We still out here.
We're still out here.
I call myself a middle-aged millennial.
Okay. Well, I just give it up to Aisha. I give it up to you all. Like, I don't know how you'll be 95 and you still be on the edge of the culture of just like, I know you will always be just beyond in the culture. You'll be in the beyond culture no matter how many years have passed. So I give it up to you because yeah, but it is cool when we get to a point where folks look to us for support, for affirmation, for just to be able to, you know, support folks in the ways that we got support. You know, we had sometimes there was nobody around to support us. We had to support each other, but we all found folks who could kind of give us that encouragement, you know, be that mirror, you know, just poke us a little bit, you can do more than you think. So beautiful to hear that you're starting to get called in that way.
No, it's exactly it, and that's so, you know, it's just like a beautiful process, and like you're like, oh wow, I'm like, I have something to give, I have something to teach, but I'm still learning from this person. Like this person showed me really quick some tools and talents to do stuff, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm ready to go, you know. So it's like an exciting like exchange that's happening that I didn't anticipate. when we started the fellowship.
Mm.
Just things. So that reminds me of just like say like learning from the collabs. Like most of our stuff, we talk about the practice of world building, and world building you can world build on your own, but I just feel it has to be collaborative. There's more stuff to learn. Like we built tons of worlds. We have a world called Nation X, like which is secretive black nation in the West that's been helping free the diaspora. We have like another bunch of worlds. Some of the fellows are creating their own worlds. Like there's things that we just build. When we say world, we mean the world. We're like, is it gravity in this world? When do black people get free? Did black people ever enslaved in this world? We totally get to recreate the rules. And it's best. I just think world building has to be done best when you collaborate. When you have, it's just not just you. You're building off other people, but you also have to do a lot of research in world building. So you're building off knowledge. When you go and research history or research another field that you're not familiar with, like I'm not a scientist, but I may have to go and read something on science to come back and inform the world. I'm communicating and building with whoever wrote that stuff or who studied that stuff. Like reading and learning is a communicative dialogue with you and some other person's thoughts. So it's constantly sharing, constantly building together.
So I want to see if we can get into the nuance of something, because what I'm sitting with as you both are sharing is we're also in a moment, as I referenced before, where there are folks who are for all kinds of reasons, like, okay, sure, there's science, but I feel like I should be able to have an opinion about it, right? Like I feel like I have an opinion about gravity or the fundamental forces of nature, as if gravity cares about my opinion, right? Because it's working on me regardless of what I think about it, right? So it exerts its own force in the universe. So there are ways in which folks are telling stories and holding on to narratives and identity in relationship to the collapsing world, the world of separation and supremacy, the world of violence and domination and extraction, like the world built around old stories. So your practice of world building is about imagining like a liberatory world, imagining a transformed world in which even the laws of the universe are mutable. Like you can, in order to just fully unlock wherever we might be holding on to something that isn't for us, that doesn't serve us, right? So there's a way in which your world building practice just kind of like makes everything possible so that we can get out of what we're stuck in. The question I have is like, how do you distinguish between those who are engaged in flights of fantasy, but flights of fantasy, stories being told to preserve and hold on to this binary world, and like what's the difference between that and world building? How do you know one from the other? And it's kind of a silly question because one feels quite different from the other, but how do you distinguish that, right? Because some might say, well, hey, Joe Rogan's world building. He's making some shit up. Sorry, excuse me. This is Beloved Community Radio. This is Sunday. Some of y'all, I'm sorry, but
on a Sunday afternoon.
He's engaged in some quite interesting flights of fancy with 40 million people on a regular basis. For what purpose and to what end? Is that world building? So, how do you, or is that something you even think about? Like, is it something we should even be relating to, or do we need to just stay focused, eyes on the prize, create what we need to create, and let the nonsense take care of itself? Like, how do you distinguish? How do you think about the relationships between these different forms of storytelling?
Like Calvin.
Yeah. No, I love this question because me and one of a neighbor friend we know, Josh Healy, was over with his youngster. We got our kiddos together he was like, Calvin, you're going to talk about beloved community. What, you're going to talk about your existential angst or something? I said, it's like, actually funny to mention it. I feel like it is part of call, Afrofuturism being a call and response to this existential angst. And if we are to ignore that is part of the equation, is to, be a little less truthful from the starting position of where, so at least for myself, where my artistry and art discipline is shaped in. That's part of the context. But that's not, it's part of a starting point, but it isn't the end point. It isn't the only point, right? But it is helpful to know, as we talked about earlier, and I can't say any better than Terry has over many years about the battlefield of ideas and of imagination, that we have a contention of dream worlds, and that my purpose in kind of context within it is world building for liberation. And what would it mean for us to invite folks who don't see themselves to be as world builders, but you know what? Yes, the Rogans, the Elon Musks, the fill in the blank billionaire running for whatever, you're running for office or running to Mars. Yes, they're world building, but so was my grandmama, right? She was world building. So was Harriet Tubman. She was world building, right? So was that parent at 3 a.m. who's like, what song is going to help soothe in this moment? That world building and elements of it, because part of it is like, we're trying to create new conditions that don't even exist. And there are elements that we must contend with and imagine. And so I see world building in our practice at Wakanda Dream Lab at its best when we are inviting people to be world building for liberation, for new stories and new storytellers to emerge, for new story worlds and storytelling platforms and experiences to emerge, so we can feel, taste, vibe, experience immersively how different this world could be. It's the permission to imagine and give ourselves the permission to activate our power of imagination, to place it in this contention of dream worlds. And so when you get someone to say an irresistible yes to themselves and what freedom feels like for them, and I'm talking about freedom in the sense of joy meeting justice, for folks that have been so often categorically denied, not like the other stuff. So that I put into the side for a moment. I'm saying for the folks that don't need translation on what that means, I'm talking to you, like squad, the permission for us to dream of what it looks like when we give water to trees and not water to thorns. Our water, right? Described as justice. What is justice? Giving water to trees. What if we planted a dream seed and watered that, let it grow over time? What new dreams would emerge from that? And that's like the conceptual, poetic way that I talk about world building, but sometimes it's as real and as present as Malik asking me to sing a song about a tractor, being there with a little ukulele, being like, I don't know no tractor songs, but you know what? For your joy, let's do it, right? And that moment was an invitation to practice. And the more that we do that, the more we're stepping into that part of our power. So sorry, I went on.
I see Aisha just, as always, dropping such wisdom in the chat and lifting up Anasa's declaration that we have the right and responsibility to imagine, to reimagine. We have the right and responsibility to create. Creativity is our sacred responsibility. We need to create. That is part of the why we are here together. And I'm just reminded of Terry, like one of the things. I mean, I feel like y'all own Instagram, but like I don't spend much time on Instagram, but what brings me joy on Instagram is intelligent mischief. It's the way in which through the images that Aisha brings together and the questions you all pose, like the juxtaposition of these collages and these questions, because as we know, in Beloved Community Network, like we understand the power of a question. This community came together with a very simple question: how do we transition from a world organized around the values of violence and domination and extraction to a world organized around resilience, regeneration, and interdependence? That question is the seed at the heart of this community. That question is the question out of which all of our inquiry has emerged. And I feel like you all in Intelligent Mischief, on a really regular rhythm, are not just giving us powerful questions, but giving us powerful questions embedded in this beautiful imagery that, just go on Intelligent Mischief's IG page and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. The thing I want to ask you, Terry, is like, what's the question that you're holding right now that's like just juicing you, that you're going to sleep at night thinking about, you're waking up in the morning, because every day you give us these questions to sit with, to meditate on, to create into, to practice into. Like, what's the question, what's the Intelligent Mischief question right now that you're holding, that's driving you?
I feel like there's two answers to that. One is a meta question, which people, if you look at our Instagram, people always know this is the what if, right? What if that's it? What if as a question into of itself? And it's sort of like a quick origin of like what you would experience on Instagram. One is all the art and beauty you will see is strictly from Aisha Shillingford. That's her artistic practice, what she's been developing and working on for years, and like in this way is getting the props, that she's always gotten, but like on a bigger scale now, right? So gotta say that first and foremost. Love of my life, Fernanda. But also the questions that you see in there, man, is coming from the very first thing that Intelligent Mischief ever did was when I started Intelligent Mischief in Boston in 2013, we did a What If festival on the steps of the State House in Boston. And I was actually I was detained by like 3 police because I had spray chalk. And I was writing "what if" on the ground in front of the State House, because there was this, we had a permit, there was a loophole that said you could use it. The police said we did it, wherever. They detained me, but then they found out they were wrong. And we just continued to do it. And we had asked organizers around Boston, like, what if Boston was the way you imagined it to be, right? And we started writing it out. So that was always like our origin story. So we took that, and then over the years, we've developed a study. We asked like people going to like study into Black imagination, Black radical imagination. And we've collected a bibliography of books around that. And then we started turning that. I used to just kind of combine those two things, like the what if question we've always asked ourselves. Like, we always got to ask because we live in a world that's somebody else's creation, right? Like how I was saying, but something I said before, like this is, at one point, this was somebody else's imagination. They made a reality. We're living their dreams. What's our dreams? And how can we make that reality? How are we contending for dream space, right? That's where it begins. But the point of it is to make it real. And so when we start there, we constantly have to say, what if? Because we always have to like imagine the new. And we've taken that and then just merged that with these like questions of that come out of like Black study, Black radical imagination, and then we're putting them out with the aesthetics. And I think that's what's like attracted people to the Instagram, and they use them as prompts. People have told us like at Spelman College they used our Instagram for their classes. Other people told us like, I look up your Instagram, then I create a workshop for my youth from it and stuff. And like those are the happiest moments. We're like, okay, this is of use to people. But that's the question. What if?
That is so powerful. So you just dropped me in, because I've been hanging out here and we've been just sitting around and focusing. And what happens when you get really, really quiet and still is you can feel the blackness, you can feel the void, you can feel the darkness out of which all possibility and light emerges, because darkness is where the light comes from. And so the depth of this what if question, like in the question of what if, is all of the possibilities of blackness, which are all of the possibilities of existence. So I think that not very just thinly underneath that simple question, embedded in the art that Aisha creates and that you all bring words to, is the source of all things. So let's just say that and let that be, because that is. What is deep about this what if question, the world that I'm in right now is a lot about what ifs in relationship to what we call money, the things we call capital. And like, what if our relationship to that, our understanding of what it is, like fundamentally changed. And I found myself just on a little bit what if journey in relationship to like, what if we fundamentally changed our relationship to money. And just so happened that Sister Amaka with Katali Foundation, doing very similar work. A lot of what I do is, following in Amaka's shadow, in her footsteps, as she moves us forward on this restorative economics journey. But Katali just launched a What If campaign all around this, and I don't even know if she peaked, like inspired by you all from 2013 or inspired by this, but it's just there is a potency in your core question that you can feel, and I just want to appreciate and acknowledge, because I think this is really a what if moment, because so much of the old world is in crisis and collapse. And people are trying and holding on with all of their might onto these collapsing binaries, as the multiplicity of futures unfolds. Like all these many worlds, these many futures are exploding out of the collapse of the one binary world, the one dominant story. Like there's all of these, there's multiplicity that's just like just everywhere. You Carnegie Hall, hey, we're gonna bring it, bring it everywhere. So it is like, I feel like this is y'all's moment, because there's a way in which, like, we always need our artists and healers and our storytellers and our cultural workers to kind of tell us who we are, remind us of who we've been, and help us to see our way forward. But when the world is collapsing in a very fundamental way, the role that you all play just becomes that much more central to our collective practice and our collective moment. Where are you? Where are each of you? Like, what are the possibilities that have emerged for each of you in any of the work that you've done recently or that you've been a part of, that like made the hair on the back of your neck stand up, or gave you a sense of like, hey, it's like, hey, my job is to imagine new possibilities every day, but I never even thought of that. Whoa, where did that come from? Like, when did you blow your own mind, or who just blew your mind recently? And just tell us a story. I know, Calvin, you're in this collaboration with Common right now, and as one of the most creative people in the culture, who's given us all so much, I'm so juiced to see how you all are collaborating and coming out. But anything out of your new collaboration with Common that just like, hey, there's something possible here that I never even allowed myself to imagine, and now I'm starting to believe, and now I'm starting to see. Like, what's got you juiced?
Oh, I love this question. And Taj, there's very few people that can get me to a place where I'm thinking of Nina Simone and Gramsci at the same time. We were talking about the times we're in, and it's like, yeah, the old world is dying, and the new one is struggling to be born. And the quote goes on, depending on the translation, these are the times of monsters or nightmares, or I see it as like, yeah, these unsettling dreams. These are the times for it. And Nina Simone reminding us that artist's duty is to reflect the times, and to remix it even more. Like, yeah, we're here to reflect the futures of what's in these possibilities, and really all of that is a reflection of ourselves. So the practices that have inspired me and blown my mind has been the new ways in which we can reflect and immerse ourselves in these dreams that are a reflection of ourselves. And recently, these new technologies that, it's still, I was struggling with whether or not to bring it up, because there is still some of this deep divide about, who has access to web AR and VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality. Me shorthanding it, I'm like, wait, let me, mention what it is. But at the same time, there's something about being able to hold in my hand a device that allows me to show you and immerse you in the dreams that I'm talking about. Be like, yo, pull your phone up, and see this, because you got your phone up looking at realities and stories and dream worlds all the time anyway. Check this out, right? And so being able to play with augmented reality is a way to take static images that are already beautiful in and of themselves, and then invite people to think of themselves as being part of this future dream world, and almost like in character in this future to unlock this static image into a teaser trailer or theatrical trailer of a dream that is ours collectively. And so we've done a couple installations that do precisely that. A quick story is that we had a fellowship, actually a residency rather, at Betty Ono Gallery here in Oakland, California. Black owned, women owned gallery space that invited us to be part of the Fire Next Time residency inspired by James Baldwin. And the whole concept was a call and response. And I see dreams as a call and response. We're simultaneously creating, dreaming, and living that, that world that we're creating, and wanted to give the folks who come through the gallery off the in the community that experience of creating, dreaming, and living simultaneously, fully immersed, and being able to use augmented reality as a device, right? Almost like a gimmick, not in and of itself. Yeah, it's cool to hold up an app and then hold up this art and the beautiful art in here, or behind me from Aisha, and see a whole different animation in 3D pop up at you. But that part of the storytelling is invitation to deeper storytelling, to say, if you were part of this dream, what would be the offering or the ceremony that you would give to a person trying to reconcile themselves through their dreams, and to heal themselves through their dreams, and take that offering and write it on this dream board, this dream wall, create new pieces out of that. And so that, the technologies that we have are all extensions of storytelling that I've been using in world building with Wakanda Dream Lab, and that's what's been giving me inspiration, is seeing how people see it and then take it to a new level. Like Damien McDuffie, who experienced that exhibit at Betty Ono, and it was like, yo, we can create our own augmented reality platform. Let me have a black funded, black coded augmented reality platform to preserve family stories, portraits, videos, archives, and art, and monuments. And these murals are being put all across Oakland, because every time it goes up, somebody tries to take it down. But if I actually embed this in the cloud, in the virtual metaverse, right, and I am able to make it augmented wherever it's, and screen it wherever I am, you can't take that away. It stays, right? So that's something that is fun to see the cipher continue, right?
What's so powerful about that is it's just such a beautiful illustration of the ways in which tools in the hands of people working towards liberation, applying those tools in very situated context, in very real physical contexts from the community up, that these tools can really serve us in powerful ways, at the same time that other people are trying to use a similar set of tools and impose them upon us from above for their own basically financial purposes. And the tools of themselves are just tools, but I think the work that you're doing is just sort of showing that there are liberatory contexts in which the microverse becomes a true metaverse, because it's rooted, because it's rooted in relationship, it's rooted in culture, it's rooted in place, and the tools are owned by the artist. The artists using the tools have a stake in the tools, and so that affects how they operate in the context. And so it's been beautiful to see some of that work in motion. Terry, how about you? What's something that's got you juiced and inspired these days? Something getting created or moving?
Oh man. So many things. I would say one thing is, like, kind of like what I mentioned before, when people sort of reflect back some of the work that we put out, but through their interpretation. So when I see folk like, you know, I said like they incorporate the questions into their curriculums. One person, we did a post that was about Black and Indigenous solidarity, and this person who I believe identifies as like Black and Indigenous kind of took the quote and made a online video of them dancing. I think it was an Indigenous dance, but then was like putting words from the quote or the answer to the quote in like a regular IG video, right? But it was like bringing our stuff to life.
Yeah.
And you know, in the past too, I've seen folks take from Black Lives Survival Guide and made like a play or something related to it. I was told somewhere, you know, and so you know, it's like not about. I mean, there's one part where you kind of get excited when you're like, oh wow, like, you know, that's from you, you know, your conceited self or something, the ego, but it's not about that. It's more like, shoot, man, like I did something to help contribute to something else. And I couldn't have imagined the way that person took it and did it. And it's like, I just want to do that more and more. That just gets me, every time I see something like that, it feels like, yo, I hope I'm helping to contribute. I just hope that this thing I'm doing contributes, somebody reverberates. And like, when they do it and then they create something where like, I couldn't have done that. Like, man, that looks amazing. Like that just feels like, okay, it makes you want to do more and you can feed off each one another.
It reminds me of our sister network, Resonance Network, and this idea of resonance, that when we make a sound or we produce a sound, when those sounds meet, when those sounds come together, they produce a vibration at another level. And when we are kind of connected to who we are and we're creating authentically and we put something out there because it deeply resonates with us, and then we get this reverberation back, and folks don't just reflect it back. They add to it. They add their piece to it. They take it in another direction. They make it like fundamentally their own. And like, I think there's no greater tribute than that. I you know, my practice is writing every morning. I get up and write. I put out a poem this morning with some images. And by 10 o'clock this morning, someone had taken the poem and they remixed it with their own set of images and stuff. And it's just like, I think that nothing feels better than that. Because it's like, you feel heard, you feel seen. There's something in that sharing that connected with that person. And then they got to make it at their own and add their own piece to it. Well, I just want to appreciate both of you brothers in beloved community for being in circle here. IG is gonna end this, whether we like it or not, in a matter of seconds. Which, you know, if you look at our first videos with Auntie Pua, we had to do this thing 3 times because it kept ending. But so we are now officially going to close. And if y'all are up for it, we'll do the after party. So we're going to close this.
B-side.
And then whoever wants to come and, you know, hang out in the after party, and maybe Anas will come in here and Aisha will come in here. We'll all get in here and we'll just chop it up for a minute until everyone's got to go and do the laundry or take care of the kids or, you know, go to mosque or whatever y'all got to do. So we're going to do the after party in just a minute. But I want to thank everyone who spent time with us today for receiving just a little taste of what Calvin and Terry are up to, and as you heard, like they're not doing any of this alone. They're rolling deep with many crews, co-creating just like the futures that we all need and want. So just appreciate you, brothers, and thank you for helping make this beloved community just beautiful, for bringing the beauty into the community. So appreciate you both.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, love y'all.
Love y'all, brothers. Terry, Taj. We'll tell the story of how we met on the flip side.
All right. Yes. All right. This is the end. Get ready. Meet us at the after party, y'all. I'm going to close this out. Open it up next. All right. See you there.